Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. What a great crowd here. And thank you to these gentlemen for joining me today. Before we get started, can we give a round of applause to the Tulane Pep Band? They're a wonderful partner. They just left around the corner, so hopefully they hear us cheering. So again, thank you for joining us. We are here to talk about the season like no other, our football season from this past year. Just a note from your program, Courtne Gosha is subbing in for Troy Dannon, our athletic director. He is in Dallas right now. Our men's basketball team won their first round tournament. And they play at 4:30 at 5 o'clock today, so everyone can get out of here and go watch that as well. So let's get started. Coach, let's start with you. Why don't you start us off by telling us about how you came with the greatest turnaround in NCAA Division I history from 2-10 to 12-2. How did you get there?
Well, it actually started last year at the book fair. I was sitting in the very back, and they were having a discussion about football in the South. I was in the very back, and they weren't mentioning Tulane very much. So I said, we got to change that. I need to get them this next year to mention Tulane. But no, it was a lot of things. We had a regular season that, preseason the year before. We went to Birmingham, Alabama. We were there 27 nights. And, I had some unique things that I had to do as a football coach that season. The hotel operators where we were staying at, we brought all our pets to Birmingham. I brought my dog, and we all the kids, I think we had 31 dogs there. And I got called up to talk to the manager of the hotel. And the manager told me, Coach, will you do me a favor? I said, what's that? Will you please have your kids make their dogs relieve themselves away from the front door? They're relieving themselves right out in front. I thought to myself, I've never had that asked to me as a football coach in my whole career. So it was a little bit different, but we had great senior leadership this past year. My coaches did a fantastic job. You can't put your finger on just one reason why we had success. There was a lot of different reasons. So everybody's kind of pulled in the same direction, and we were fortunate enough to have a fantastic year.
Thank you, Coach. Quite a turnaround for sure. Courtne, let's shift to you for a second and say, what effect did this season like no other have on the athletics department and the university as a whole, both during the season and now that it's over?
Well, Jana, really good question. And I'll first start by saying, the reason that we were successful this year, outside of having phenomenal coaches and phenomenal student athletes, was really the level of investment that the leadership at the university has invested in athletics, starting with our president, Mike Fitz, and our COO, Patrick Norton. But really, that's the catalyst. Those are the type of the recipe that really sets us up to be successful. But there's a number of things when you talk about the leadership, and I'm the football sport administrator, and so you get to see a lot of things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't. And the senior leadership, the fact that there are challenges, there is adversities, there's things that we face throughout the year, but our kids kind of have that 1-0 mentality. And as an athletics department, I think we really wrapped our arms around not about the things that we don't have, but the things that we did have. And it was a 1-0 mentality. The athletic department staff, as Coach mentioned, they also spent 27 days in Birmingham. And just coming out of the post-COVID year, this was really the first normal season that we've had. And so I think as the football team was successful on the field, it really underscored what it means to be a member of the family and a member of the Tulane Athletics Department and our university. And I think we've seen some things this year that really shocked us all. When we were in Dallas and we saw 35,000 fans with the green on, I think it was an opportunity for us to really say just how impactful this university can be globally. But again, just using athletics is that vehicle to display that.
And you're not giving yourself any credit, right? First time as a sports supervisor, 12-2, no pressure next year.
No pressure.
Yeah, it's all Courtne, right? All Courtne, Coach, right? All right. Jeff, as a media member in this area for quite some time, how would you describe the success that Tulane football had this year and the impact you think it's going to have on sports in our city?
Well, I can tell you, I think it was the biggest sports story we had this season, bar none. I don't think there was anything close to it. We needed Tulane to be good because the Saints and Pelicans are not upholding their end of the bargain right now. So what Willie did, I think his staff, he mentioned the leadership on the team. I don't think people quite understand just how hard it is to do what they did this year. I mean, Coach knows this better than anybody, but college football has become very stratified. It's very difficult to continue to ascend up at the highest levels. For them to go in the Cotton Bowl and beat a power like Southern Cal is remarkable. No one would have thought that could happen, I think, locally. I think it was beyond their wildest dreams to be able to do it in this modern era. I can remember back, Coach, when Bobby Bowden was building Florida State's program. And back then, Florida State would go on the road and play Ohio State and Notre Dame, and they had to kind of earn their way up, but they finally did. They built their program into what's a legitimate Power 5 program. It's much harder to do that now. I think you've got to be very shrewd with the coaching evaluation, the way the coaches look at talent and see maybe developmental ability. I think the Tulane staff's tremendous at that. And I think also understanding how to schedule and how to get in the right conference, what Troy Dana did getting in the American Athletic Conference. This has been one of the best stories, I think, in all of college football. And I tell you when I knew this thing was going to be big. I was out, I think it was my second game this season, maybe the Central Florida game, and the student section was packed after halftime. They're on to something here. This is big. Mm-hmm. And then it just kept building and building and building. And the thing I have to credit Coach with, he talks about culture a lot. You could see it. I'm a big believer in intangibles, in body language, and you could see it on the sideline early with your team, Coach. Everyone was bought in. All the players, the support staff on the sidelines, they believed. And this was early when they were just starting to scratch the surface after beating Kansas State, and people were just starting to kind of wake up and say, hey, how good is this Tulane team? You could sense it on the sidelines watching from afar, and it just took off. And to me, it's one of the great stories in college football of the last 50 years.
Jeff, the second part of that question, what impact do you think that'll have moving forward in the city in sports in the city?
Well, it's got to change the perception of the program. I think that's what's so hard to do. There's so much image and perception about college football these days. It's one of my big, criticisms of college football at the Division I level is so much is built on perception because they don't have a true playoff system. And I think what Willie did and what Tulane did this year kind of shattered that myth. They proved it on the field. In the past, there was so much judging, and it was the eyeball contest, and you had a committee voting on who should play. The top 4 teams decided on the field, and that's what the Cotton Bowl did. We saw Tulane stand toe-to-toe with a blue blood program and not only compete, but win the game in the end. I think it's going to change the perception of the program going forward, not only the mind of everyone here locally, but I think also in the mind of recruits and certainly in the mind of the local media.
Thank you. Hi, James. How are you? We finally got to you. Sorry.
All right.
As a native of Louisiana, former Tulane professor, and a sports fan in general, because you come to a lot of our events, talk about the buzz in the region around football in general and what the success Tulane was having.
Right. So I taught 9 years here at Tulane. I lived, so I sold my house about 4 or 5 blocks from here. But Tulane football is convenient to this university. Let me try to unpack this. First of all, Tulane recruits high-level students to come here. The fact that you got a stadium like this on this campus and a winning team, you're going to beat out Emory. You're going to beat out Rice. You're going to beat out Wake Forest. You're going to beat out a lot of your peers because I've been around sports for a long time. I used to go to the New Orleans Buccaneers game in the old ABA at the Loyola Fieldhouse, and they had to have a net because the basketball court was 4 feet above the ground. But the Tulane experience, now that they have a winning tradition, is as good as on-campus experience that a student can have. And I'm sitting on the fence, and I'm thinking about this, and I say, geez, I can go to 6, 7 home games, can walk to 6, 7 home games and watch a really good football team play. Yeah, that's gonna help Tulane academics also a lot, because these kids like to go and drink beer and go to the game, yell for their team, and walk back to their dorm room. That's a pretty good, what you're offering here is a damn good product. And now that it's a winning product, I think the ramifications for the university at large are enormously positive.
I'll open this up to everyone on the panel, and Jeff kind of got into this with his answer, but what impact do you believe the conference championship and the Cotton Bowl victory for Tulane football is going to have on this program, this city, sports in general? What impact do you think it'll have?
Well, all I know is Willie got to ride in a Mardi Gras parade. I mean,
Yes, I did.
I was disappointed you didn't wear that Mac Daddy jacket you had to give me. I thought for
I should have
sure.
worn it. You're right.
Yeah, you should have had that out. But no, this is a program changer, don't you? I mean, you
really
know better
is,
than anybody,
yeah.
Coach.
Without question, it is. I want to give James's school, LSU, a pat on the back, too. They beat the dog out of Purdue the same time we were playing USC, and if I had $1 for every LSU fan who's come up to me and said, Coach, we turned off that game, we started watching your game, and it was so exciting. I'm serious. I've had hundreds and hundreds of LSU fans tell me that, and it's probably the only good thing they've said about Tulane, and maybe vice versa, I don't know. But, yeah, I think it's had a major impact in our program. I just, got here a moment ago. We had practice this morning, and I had, 50 recruits on campus, and probably 20 of them were legit offer guys, which, you really don't have that often in the spring. So it's really made a positive impact.
Yeah, Jeff Duncan will mention this, but I picked a handicap for the Adminola.com against all the sports writers. I'm not going to mention who won the contest this year.
Not Jeff, is what you're saying?
I picked Tulane in the Cotton Bowl. So it's nothing
There you
that
go.
puts you on the line. And so my wife and I were in Bay St. Louis, and like everybody else, we were going back and forth, but it wasn't any sense in watching whatever Citrus Bowl that we were playing in. And I just can remember I was telling Coach Fitz, when that guy fumbled that ball on the 1-yard line, I said, Tulane's going to win this game. All right? And the excitement, that the improbability of the whole thing is just, you got to let it digest it a little bit of what Coach and his team accomplish. And again, I'll go, what it's going to mean for the long-term health of this university.
Yep. And just to sum up a couple of things, and I'll kind of echo Jeff's point. You talk about the student section, and I oversee facilities and events here, and trust me, I lost a lot of real estate on this hairline this year. But the fact that students came out, and the conference championship game in particular, we were going to cap it at around 4,000 students. Well, we had 6 show up. And they took over and they stayed the entire game. So this year, a lot of firsts, things that really challenge us as an athletic department to grow. I think on the development front and fundraising and all of those type things, when people are really excited about the great things that are happening holistically at your university, it's an opportunity that the university grows, our athletic department grows. There's a number of, facility investments that we're making. And again, I think the impact of this game to show that we can compete at the highest levels of intercollegiate athletics, graduate our student athletes with a degree that's second to none, I think is really one of the long-term impacts that will continue to trend.
Thank you all for that. That's good. From each of your unique perspectives, what do you think it's going to take to continue this success in the program next year and beyond? And I know everybody wants this guy's answer, so we're going to start at this end down here and let Coach have a few minutes to think about that one.
Well, look, I think they took a major step in keeping Michael Pratt here. I think that was a big step to, it's all about players, Johnny's and Joe's, and Coach and his staff, I think established a formula for winning. And I think it's being recognized now, not only in the region, but they know what they have to do to win at a school like Tulane. I think that was key bringing Coach in, a proven winner, a guy that's built programs at every level he's been at. That was critical, I think, making that hire here, because this is a long road, and Coach will tell you, built brick by brick. Building in college football doesn't happen overnight. It's an arms race. And what they've been able to do, I think, is set up now for long-term success. Coach will tell you, I mean, their depth chart is deeper now than it certainly was early on in his career. So now I think they're only going to reap the benefits in recruiting, being able to retain staff, being able to attract staff, quality staff. All that should only go up now with the winning product that James is talking about. I also think more and more people are going to come to games now because we attracted people to campus this year that maybe hadn't come before. The casual fan that said, hey, I'm going to go up to Willow Street and see what this excitement's all about. And they see the stadium that James is talking about. It's an incredible environment and experience here to watch a college football game. I walk to the games from my house. That's amazing for me to be able to do it. I'm sure more and more people in the community now will come out and support. So it now extends beyond the academic community into the uptown New Orleans. And I know that's been something that's been branded here at Tulane for a while.
You know, I'll say right now, Jana, and this is in your world, but season tickets are up 400% from where we were last year. That's transformational. We did an analysis of the media impact of the Cotton Bowl, and it was a value of $180 million of free advertisement for this university and what we do here. And again, it further underscores the fact that we've got the right guy. With all the compressions of intercollegiate athletics, you got NIL, you got transfer portal, you got all these other things, coaches coming and going. We've got a guy that has built it the right way, and ultimately one of the reasons why we're excited to keep him here. But he's managed those circumstances the right way. You know, when you talk about our quarterback, Michael Pratt, you know, when you have success, that's when people start kind of looking at how they can pick that apart. And he's done a phenomenal job of keeping that core together. And we want to make sure that we support him in that. And so fans showing up, the community showing up, I think this year was just a watershed moment for us, but I certainly think that we'll continue to push that.
Me? Oh, I just, it's hard for me to explain to you what an experience that Tulane football has compared to other places. And you can go to the game. You can walk to the game. All right? I no longer can go to LSU game. It's a 9-hour operation, and I'm best friends with the athletic director. I can park on the field. I can go in the box. All right? It takes, by the time you sit in traffic and you get there and you get on the elevator, and you're watching really high-quality athletes. And by the way, the American Athletic Conference is pretty good competition. Don't kid yourself. Yeah. All right? And what I also, and I don't expect, the college football is going to change. All right? There's going to be conference realignment. You get over it. And Tulane is going to be well positioned. All right? Now you got a winning team. You got a good stadium. You're in a pretty good sized media market. You got a pretty national-wide alumni. And so when this conference starts shuffling up again, Tulane is going to be in very good position to be able to go where it feels like it can best serve its future. But I can promise you, what college football conferences look like today is not what they're going to look like 5 years from now. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know what axis it falls on, but it's going to fall, I guarantee you. And what this has really done for you, and you're going to continue to be good. I mean, I have no doubt about it. This was not a one-off thing, because what the culture that's been established by coach and the athletic department and the football team, that's not going to leave you. That's not a one-off thing. Culture stays, and winning culture stays. So I'm by my heart. It's really amazing what y'all have done and how you've put yourself in a position to succeed even more.
Well, James, you forgot one thing. There's $3 beers in Yuleman. That was a hit.
Makes everybody want to come. All right, Coach, how do you sustain this?
Well, when I came here and our initial press conference, I talked about that. Tulane's had great teams in the past. They really have, and have had great players, just have not done it consistently, and that's our goal right now. I keep harping on that with our guys over and over and over again, that, we got to improve in all facets of our program in 2023 to replicate what we did in 2022. And when we go out and recruit, we talk about three things. We want to, recruit bona fide Division I student athletes with character. And we're fortunate that we have academic standards here for our student athletes. My old man was kind of a tough guy, and he used to always say, Willie, hang around with smart people because they don't do as many dumb things as dumb people do. So I got some really smart guys, and we're able to do some complex things, I think, offensively, defensively, and in the kicking game. And then also, we talked a little bit about NIL and the transfer portal, retain these guys. And I feel like we've got a culture that the guys want to stay here. They enjoy going to school here. They really do. This degree is going to help them the next 40 years of their life. And, we talked about a couple different players. I had some guys who got recruited pretty darn hard. Now the way that they're supposed to enter the portal first, then they recruit them. I've mentioned this a few times in the press. Some people don't understand that first part. They go ahead and they do this thing called indirect contact. That's illegal recruiting is what that is. But our guys, there's 133 schools that play Division I football, and there's 4 schools that have had less guys enter the portal than us. I'm proud of that. Our guys have they've stayed here. And that was even last year when we didn't have a great season. We didn't lose very many guys. And then the last thing we talk to our guys about all the time is developing our guys when they get here as students, as people, and also as players. And I use 4 guys as an example all the time when I talk to recruits. Darnell Mooney, he's the #1 wide receiver with the you Bears fans over there. Go Bears, right? He had 63 catches for the Bears last year. We were his only Division I offer, so we had to do a good job going out and beating the bushes and finding guys that we could get and then develop them. I'll tell you something else about Darnell too. With his Pell Grant, his stipend, his cost of attendance money, per diems that we had, in 3.5 years he graduated. He used an app called the Robin Hood app. I don't know. Students use this to invest their money. He actually saved $52,000 in 3.5 years as a student. He had it in the bank, and now he's making millions. So 52,000 isn't as big a deal for him, but I think that tells you about the student athlete. Then Cam Sample, we were his only Division I offer. I think he started 6-7 games for the Bengals this year. And then Patrick Johnson, he played in the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. We were his only Division I offer. And then Bo Pete Keys, he's playing with the Houston Texans now, and he's a theater major. My wife is right over there. Susan, will you stand up, please? Right there. This is.
She definitely deserves a round of applause.
People always ask me all the time, why did you stay? You had some opportunities to leave. She told me she would divorce me if I left New Orleans. All right, so that's the reason why I stuck around here. But those 4 guys are really indicative of how we recruit. And obviously it's getting, hopefully easier to get some of those big-time Division I student athletes in here.
Pull back the curtain a little bit, Coach. What's maybe one thing that fans don't already know about this past season that you would share with them from inside behind the curtain?
Well, I was talking to James about one of them. We're big into analytics with our football program. We've been doing it I've been doing it for about 9 years, and I try to make all my decisions based on percentages. And that last kickoff that he was talking about, it was 51% kick it deep, 49% obvious onside kick. And I was really leaning doing the obvious onside kick, because we were having, Coach Riley's a fantastic offensive coordinator, but that quarterback was incredible. It is about the Jimmies and the Joes, Jeff, you're right. But I didn't know if we could stop him or not. And fortunately, we fumbled the ball out of bounds. They fumbled the ball out of bounds and got on the 1-yard line and did a couple zone reads, and we got a safety off of it. But that's something that we do that I don't think a lot of college fans know. We're making decisions, and as soon as we get the ball, I'm telling my offense coordinator, 4th and 3 or less. That means if it's 3 or less yards on 4th down, we're going for it. So that really dictates what you call on 3rd down. Maybe it's 3rd and 5, and instead of throwing the ball, what most people would do, you run the football and you buy yourself another down. So we're very, very big into analytics.
Courtney, what about from an administrative perspective, something that maybe fans don't know about the past football season?
Well, we didn't get very much sleep. I can tell you that much. It was exciting. Obviously, from the first game, this was the first opportunity that we really had to have a normal football season. It's one of the things that Troy echoed throughout the year. But the Kansas State game was really a kind of an inflection point for us. I think administratively, people started to kind of perk up a little bit. And the next week, we had a pretty big crowd. And as the year kind of, progressed, some of the challenges that just we've never experienced before as an administration, having the Glazier Family Club sold out and having to tell people no. That was a tough conversation. On top of that, being proactive. I'll give Troy Dannon a lot of credit because, he kind of scripted the season the way that it went. We knew as we were successful that things were going to happen. We knew that people were going to probably come poking and prodding for our coach. We were proactive in that. I think that, as we were working the phones and talking about rankings and being positioned for this magical moment of a New Year's Six Bowl, we were very proactive in that. And so there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that, we'll be prepared for in the future. But it was a lot of things that were first here. And I'll give credit to Jana Woodson and Charville Greer, our other deputy athletics director, because, again, there was a lot of teamwork and things that, they did that people couldn't have even imagined to make it successful. So I think the leadership team, really did a phenomenal job this year.
I would agree with that. I'll share one nugget inside that, Coach and everyone sits here and talks about what great student athletes we have, and up and down the board, it's very true. But this next question I'm about to ask them, and if you go and ask our football student athletes, what was your favorite memory of the Cotton Bowl? 90% of them, when I asked that question, told me, the greatest thing we did is I loved going to the children's hospital and being with those kids. So that's the kind of student athletes we have here. They could say, we won the game, I got all this great stuff, we got to do all these things. And they said, the best thing we did is spend time at the children's hospital with kids for a couple hours. Coach, talk about that and the type of your student athletes and why that's the answer when everything that you just accomplished, that's the type of person that you bring to your team.
Well, it's the character part when you go out and recruit and make sure you find a guy who's had a good 18 years. I tell my coaches that all the time. If the guy's had a bad 18 years, probably going to be tough for us to, help develop him 19, 20, 21, 22. He's had a good 18 years, man. We do a good job of shining and polishing him and, getting him ready for that first job when he graduates from Tulane. So I think a lot of that, I can't take credit for that. I think that's their parents and where they came from and things like that. But and then the other part, too, that I think is with our name, image, and likeness, we've tied everything in to doing charitable work. And, I think that's also unique.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so before we turn it over for questions, one last question for the whole panel. What's your favorite memory from this past football season?
I'll start off because I have a distinct memory. I think, Coach, it was the game we all beat Memphis at home, big game. And I'd come down outside the locker room, and Troy Dannon was talking to Troy. Troy dragged me in, you remember this, dragged me into the post-game locker room. Media's not supposed to be in there, but I was with the AD, so I was good. But I got in there, and I got to listen to Coach's post-game speech. And, he's got this great moment around the entire team. And he says, look, everybody celebrate, have a great time, but I don't want to hear about you guys or see you guys going over to the boot tonight, because I'm going to be there right now. and the players went crazy. It was a great moment, and you could feel the culture, like I said earlier, the vibe, the energy, the love from the players. It was special. I've been in this business a long time, and you can sense those things, and I sensed it early with this team. I got to say, Coach, I didn't know if you beat Southern Cal or not, but I knew it was a special season, and even if you'd have come up short in that game, it was still a special season. I think that's important to note. One play here or there, it doesn't matter. What they accomplished this season through the prism of what James is talking about. When we look back at it, it's only going to get more and more special. I see that with the Saints having won the Super Bowl, right? We all thought, boy, there's going to be a bunch of these with Drew Brees here. They still only have that one. These things tend to get more special with the perspective of time.
You know, I'll say the American Athletic Conference Championship here at Yulman, and there's a sign in front of Yulman Stadium, and it's a New Orleans thing, Tulane thing, and it says, you know, do for one's own and not oneself. And it was an opportunity when we knew we were going to win that game, the energy in that stadium and the fact that people jumped over the rails and took the field. It was a magical moment, and that's one. You know, I've been around a lot of football and a lot of other places, but that's one that I won't forget, and I think it was certainly a special moment here.
Yeah, easy. The last 2.5 minutes of the Cotton Bowl. I've watched 100,000 games of any kind that you can imagine. If that is not top 3, I don't know what is. I'm serious. It just that is nothing close.
I would say the conference championship too. I thought it was really neat to watch the students charge the field and, you know, and grabbing our guys, and you know, it's just something that we built this program to, and to enjoy it with the student body, the administration, and everybody affiliated with Tulane was really special.
I'll share mine too. So with 3.5 minutes left in the game, and they had just got, right when we got the safety, I suddenly realized one of my administrative duties was to make sure that President Fitz got on the stage when we won the game. And I was on the other end of the stadium, and I said, oh my God, we're gonna win this thing. And I start sprinting down the sideline. When I get there, President Fitz is like, Jana, yes! And I was like, here we go, we're about to get on the stage and do this. So we believed in you, but with about 3.5 minutes to go, we knew it was gonna happen, all of us on the sideline. So.
You know, I'm sorry, beating Cincinnati ain't the same as beating Southern Cal. I know it, man, it was a culmination of a season and hard work and winning the conference, but God damn.
Hey, Dana, I'll share one with you. And since Troy's not here, don't tell him I told you this, but with about 2 minutes left, he had a son with him, and everybody knows, you know, Buddy, I think he got something in his eye, so he was crying and kind of fidgeting around and all that, and so Troy looked at me and he said, hey, watch Buddy for a second. I need to pay attention. And so I had Buddy, and naturally we won the game, and I took off because, like Jana, I had some administrative duties. And about 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh gosh, where's Buddy? Nevertheless, we found Buddy, and we got him right. So since Troy's not here, that's
yeah, I had your back. I got you. All right, we're going to open it up for questions here. So there are some microphones here on the side. You can ask a question for anyone on the panel.
Coach Fritz, Tajay Spears is electrifying, and he reminds me of Barry Sanders. When did you know he was special, and do you see things in practice routinely that we marvel at in the games?
Yeah, he was just over there at practice. You know, him and Dorian Williams and Tanzel Smart plays in the New York Jets. They're all 3 at practice. Those guys really represented us well at the Senior Bowl and at the Combine. And, you know, Tajay and Dorian both have graduated. Tajay's got about a 3.3 GPA, you know, and some people don't know that about him, but he's, he's got, you know, I'm hoping he stays here in town, is what he really wants to play with the Saints. You know,
That's what the Saints need.
You know, and I've got to know Mickey Loomis and Michael Parrington, who's in charge of their draft, and Jeff Ireland. You know, Michael Parrington played here at Tulane as well, so I bug those guys all the time. But, you know, we saw that in high school. He kind of got injured in high school and played more wide receiver than he did running back. And, you know, that's another guy that we found and got him here. And he was getting recruited by a couple schools from a distance. And his dad was in here on the visit. And he told me he was going to go visit one. It was Kansas State. It was who it was. I said, I said, all right, let's talk about this for a second. How far you live from the airport? He goes, about an hour and 15 minutes. I said, every time you go up there, you ever missed one of his games? Never missed one. You're going to have to drive to the airport. You're going to have to park your car. You're going to have to pay for parking. All their games start at noon on Saturday. So you got to fly in on Friday. I said, you know what town Kansas State's in? He goes, I have no idea. Manhattan, Kansas. I said, I'm from Kansas City. So you're going to have to fly to Kansas City. You're going to have to rent a car. You're going to have to drive all the way 2 hours to Manhattan, get 2 nights of hotel rooms, pay for, all this food and everything else, and then come on back and drive back to Ponchatoula and get there late on Sunday night. Because, Coach, we're not visiting. We're coming to Tulane. Sometimes you got to talk fast.
So I just want to make a point here. I know this is the greatest moment in Tulane football history, but December 2nd, 1973, my friend John Barry was on the sidelines, and he was coaching at Tulane. And that beat LSU first time, I think, since 1948. But the story I'll tell you is we started talking about a guy that played at LSU by the name of Terry Rubisky. And Terry got hurt, but he actually coached some games in the NFL, and his son Brian played Ohio State, and I think played 4 or 5 years in the NFL. And so LSU was recruiting him, and they lived in Edgard, right on the river on the west side. So a friend of mine was on the LSU board, and they went in there, and his family, his father was like a school principal, and they said, look, if Terry comes to LSU, we're going to put you on the levee board. And Mr. Rubisky said, it was a good citizen. He said, well, to tell you the truth, I don't know why you do that. I don't know anything about levees. And so Jerry McKernan on the board said, sir, can we step out on your front porch? So he says, look across the street. What do you see? He said, the levee. He said, good. Here's a phone number. If that goddamn thing breaks, we call this number. So that was the way they used to recruit.
Jimmy?
When I was a student here, F was not a good grade. But with Fritz and Fitz, we may need to think about how we recalibrate that. What I'd love to be able to do is get Mike and Willie to come up together and tell us about the real things behind the process of getting you to stay. It's a wonderful culture. We couldn't have kept it without you. I don't know if Mike would do that, but would you tell us a little more than that your wife threatened you with divorce?
That was the reason. No, it just, it was God, I would, a lot of people ask me if Tajay Spears and Dorian Williams are going to play in the Cotton Bowl, because you get all these kids that are opting out now. And I thought that'd be like me opting out if I wouldn't have stayed here for the conference championship game. And I never asked those guys if they were going to do it. I thought it'd be an insult if I asked those guys that. So, we're all in.
Coach, thank you for the most glorious of all seasons and so many memories. You mentioned a couple. I was thinking about beating Houston in overtime with a third-string quarterback, breaking the SMU streak, beating Cincinnati at Cincinnati. But I'd like to take you back to a less happy moment, which was Southern Miss. And I think many people walked out of that stadium saying,
We don't have much time here.
Here we go again. But you had instilled in this group a culture of success and expectation of success. And I'd like to hear a little bit about how you accomplished that, because in retrospect, it proved nothing to be a pothole, and even not even a New Orleans-sized pothole.
When the game got over, I was getting ready to address the team, and Nick Anderson, one of our captains, #1 linebacker, I hope he gets a real opportunity in the NFL because he'll make a team. He kind of got in front of me, and he just told our guys, hey, man, we're starting to get full of ourselves. We got to start forgetting about the whole season and going 1-0 every single week. And I'd always had that as a motto, but the kids embraced it then, and we kind of flushed everything down the toilet and just started over again. And I'll give a lot of credit to Nick with, talking, because, when I say it, it's important, but when one of their fellow players says it, it's really important. It really means something. And I think that kind of, took us, had everybody looking at the season a different way. And every day we were trying to go 1-0 every single day and getting a little bit better every day. And I owe a lot of that credit to Nick Anderson.
Yeah, since James mentioned me in '73, of course, that was a great team, and we were 5-0 against teams that are now in the ACC. We were 2-1 against teams that are in the SEC. We were 1-1 against the top 10. We beat Pittsburgh with Tony Dorsett. A couple of years later, they won the national championship. We held them to 6 points. But you guys outdid us. And I don't say that about the '98 team. You know, it's not their fault they didn't play anybody, but they didn't play anybody. You guys outdid the '73 team, and it's really a great moment for you.
You know, I don't know about that, but one of the great things about being someplace for a long period of time is you get to know the former players, coaches like John, and you know, as I said before, there's been a lot of great teams at Tulane, just haven't done it consistently, and '73 team certainly is one of them.
Coach, they showed an impressive picture of you with a mohawk during
Yeah,
the game,
yeah.
and I was wondering how long you had that and if it had any influence on your wife. And,
I had the mohawk before I met my wife. I don't think she would have married me, but you know, I have that picture right behind my desk in my office, and when I'm getting after somebody for skipping a class or being late or not doing what they're supposed to do, I turn around and I show them the picture, and I tell them, I know you guys think I'm a lot older than you, but I was young and stupid, just like you were. Look at the picture right there. So listen to what I'm talking to you about. So it's a good example that sometimes we do foolish things when we're a little younger.
Any closing thoughts by anyone on the panel?
The what?
Any closing thoughts? We have a couple minutes left. Or any other questions?
No, I mean, just obvious. It was just something a pleasure to be alive to watch what Tulane did this year, and particularly the Courtne Bowl. Like I say, I've gone to 100,000 watch. I don't know how many different things, and that's easy top 3 thing that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it really is. When you think about it, it's greater than you can even imagine. You know, the whole ending, and you know, and again, it was Southern Cal. It was the Courtne Bowl. I mean, every ingredient that you had to make something a story that lasts for the ages was in that game. And that comment doesn't come around very often, let me tell you. It really doesn't. And everybody associated with this university ought to really, like, just reflect on that for a second and give Coach Fitz and President Fitz and any Fitz and Jimmy Fitzmars and every other Fitz you can come up with. But it was just a remarkable pleasure to observe that.
No doubt. Well, let's do it again, folks. You know, I'll say this. We've got, you know, we're going to be ranked the highest ranked Group of 5 institution. We're going to open the season up with South Alabama right here in Yulma Stadium. Then we're going to host one of our old SEC foes, Ole Miss. And I want to make sure we see a lot more green than we see red or that other color. So we need your support. We need you to buy your tickets. We need you to invest in the Green Wave Club, invest in our NIL initiatives to keep, you know, student athletes here, and let's keep this thing going. So let's do it again.
I'd say the most pleasant surprise of the panel was that it took James 15 minutes to mention that he won the picks contest. The over-under was 2 minutes, and he went to 15.
So in the end, you win anyway, Jeff. That's the other thing.
Correct.
I won't mention it, but another 100 times.
I think you want to say anything, President Fitz?
So I want to just point out one thing that should be obvious to everybody here. First, this is a season like no other. I mean, literally just an extraordinary series of events of a team that just showed grit and passion through the entire season coming back. The second point is why, and it's Coach Fritz and the players, an incredible group of individuals, in terms of their sort of grit, you saw them in the Courtne Bowl hugging each other. This is a team that, and I have to say, I can't say enough about them, and I can't say enough about Coach Fritz. They really reflect his vision, his dedication to the entire program. So I wanted to be able to say that and to thank him and all the team, and we should give him a standing ovation.
Thank you all so much for joining us. There are books for sale there at the back. You can enjoy yourself, and there's another panel in here in just 15 minutes. Thank you.